Today, let's get to listen to stories of triumph amidst failures, courage despite fear, strength through weakness, and even the occasional hopeful cheer from personal punny experiences. I am your host, RKaye, and this is the BetterU podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the BetterU podcast. Coach RKaye here, and thank you so much for joining me in today's show. Now, for the past couple of weeks, we have been, trying to compare and get to sort out the love month together with fitness and health and wellness and all that good stuff. And today is no different. Again, we will be doing our best to talk about the relationships that we have in relation to fitness and in relation to starting off our fitness journey and how it can be a little bit, better for all of us. And for today's show, it is something, or it has to do with actual relationships. And what I'm talking about here and where I'm getting at today is that a good amount of time, some people are quite, into fitness on their own, going at it solo. And for today, we get to talk a bit more about going into fitness where we have a partner or maybe a buddy. All right. So fitness buddies. Today we get to see, or in terms of efficiency or how effective it will be. Again, I will relate to some stories or some experiences and events that I myself have experienced on my own, as well as having some clients of mine as well who have experienced it through their own journey. And what makes it different with regard to training on your own or training with someone or a group of people. So if you're the type of person who has had to go through their fitness journey all alone, and you think that you have had a good amount of success throughout your journey, well and good, right? I myself have had the opportunity to go through training, especially when I was doing powerlifting. A good amount of time I would actually just be training alone. But there are also specific moments where I had to, and it was very important for me to have at least a training buddy or a training partner who would, number one, be support, number two, and most especially important, was that they were my spotter. All right. So someone who would actually help me through a good amount of maximum effort training days, make sure that I did not die when I had to attempt a good amount of weight for my training session. But aside from that fact, there are, of course, aside from the actual physical aspect of having someone there for you and making sure you don't break your neck or anything like that, what is it, or what is the main importance really of having a partner or a fitness buddy? And a good amount of time is, as I mentioned, support. You have a very good support system with you, especially if you're someone who actually has those particular days where you go into training and you don't really feel like it. I know a good amount of time, a lot of us, when we want to stay consistent and committed to our training routines, sometimes it does get to be a bit boring, quote unquote, or it becomes such a chore for us to go in and out of training, especially if we have to travel to an actual fitness facility, or the venue where we train is quite far from where we live. Sometimes it becomes a chore. Sometimes we feel like we have to drag ourselves to each training session that we have. And so having a training partner or having a support system with you is actually a great way to deal with that sort of that feeling of anguish. All right. And I know for a fact that there are some people who really do get to enjoy training more when they're not specifically alone. All right. And let's be honest, training on your own, especially when there comes a time in your training regimen where it feels like, training has become so much of a routine that it just gets a little bit too plain, or too, like what I mentioned, too boring. It kind of makes it a little bit better to deal with the whole scenario of having to, lift the weights, or run, or, attend the classes when you have somebody to share the experience with. And yeah, I do get the the idea of it is a lot more bearable. You get to have someone to support you, and it's not just typically a one-way street. You also are there to support your training partner as well, right? So of course, aside from the idea of it, of having somebody to support you, it's also a great deal to really have somebody there to also have the same goals that you have for your own training routine. It becomes something quite of a it turns out to become similar to like a school project. All right, you guys have the same type of goals that you want to reach, and you help each other pretty much to come up with the result that you want. And that's actually a great way to also ensure that your training becomes successful. And as I mentioned a while ago, you know, a- aside from having someone who trained with me through my own training routine, I had somebody who also has the same goals that I did, and mainly a lot of the training partners and training fitness buddies that I've had before also were into strength training and powerlifting, either powerlifting or strongman. And it was, a lot more of an easier experience for me during that time, because, you get to exchange certain training regimens. You get to talk a lot about, what is it that makes your training successful, what you've done so far that hasn't made training that successful as well. So you basically gather each other's experiences, and you get to talk about that a lot as well. So this is, of course, aside from having a coach, but you when you have somebody who has similar stories and experiences that you have, yourself experienced, it becomes a lot more of an easier task for you to continue on with your journey, because you know that you are not alone when it comes to having to deal with many struggles, and you know the many different steps you have to take in order to get to the success that you know you can achieve. And yeah, that's actually also some of the stories that my own clients as well have experienced. I think as well, when you are a coach and you have somebody to uh, guide through their own journey, it is also important that as a coach, you do get to also relay the same type of experiences with your clients. And a good amount of time, the clients that I have had handled myself, they too have the same kind of goal settings that I have had as well. It's always important to have somebody who really do share the same experiences that you have. I know it's kind of harder to actually have a fitness buddy who has quite the opposite of what you are trying to get to. So, I myself have never really had anybody. As an example, I am not really the type who has had a very strenuous, or sorry, maybe the better term is, I've never really been somebody who has dived into a lot of really good flexibility training. So if somebody came up to me and told me, hey, did you want to be my fitness buddy for a bit of time? And if they do tell me that their main goal is to have, very good flexibility, I would have to kind of back off, because honestly, there is just very limited information that I know about flexibility. And I myself, aside from like really just getting into my own flexibility routine, which is like basic or very general stretches after I train, there's not really quite anything more that I could probably share with my fitness buddy. And so if they would actually come up to me and ask me, and if I do get into that type of scenario, I would try to question myself, because it would actually be quite unfair for the other person if they are just so into, flexibility and I really am not. So that's also actually one of the things that we should also be looking into in terms of having someone or wanting someone to be our partner throughout training. It has to be, and this of course comes from my own experience, it has to be something that is equally at par, or at least at par, between the two of you, or within that group of people. It pretty much sends out a sense of community, pretty much. All right, you wouldn't want somebody to actually feel left out, or feel that they're putting in a lot more effort than you actually are. That would end up being something tragically unequal and unfair, if you do get to experience that type of, you know, um, partner relationship kind of deal. Because again, going back to what we mentioned, it is a community. It is something that in the end you want to, eventually or be able to support that person. And if you aren't really giving at least the same amount of effort into the whole training regimen or the whole tandem of you training, then it wouldn't really make sense for you to have that fitness buddy. All right. And also to mention, sometimes there is also such a thing as supporting someone but also being competitive with them. That is also something that many of us should also look into when it comes to finding a fitness buddy or a partner or a community to belong to when we want better relationships in our own fitness journeys. There's also a certain level of unfairness sometimes when it becomes like too personal of a competition between each other. All right, so that's also something that you should also get to look into yourself. If you want to have a fitness buddy or if you want to be included in a fitness community, it's also good to have friendly competitions, but you also have to keep yourself in check. Be sure that you don't take anything too personally. Even if things get a little bit competitive between the two of you as fitness buddies or maybe somebody from the community. Try to keep yourself in check. Try to make sure that you always treat everybody as equals, and be sure that you always still provide that support even if things go a little bit you know unruly or not what you expected. All right, I think every type of fitness community do get those chances where people want to compete against each other, but again, always try to be the better person or the bigger person if situations like that arise. All right, I know, again, for a fact, relationships, whether they're lifelong friends or they're somebody who you just immediately click with at the gym, somebody you train with regularly, or just somebody who you have met just maybe a day or a week ago. Relationships are always something that you want to build on, and it's not easily something that you get to really nurture as quickly as you can. Well, of course, it depends on the person that you get to relate with. But what I'm saying here is, every relationship, whether it's a gym buddy, an actual family member or friend, there's always, different types of dynamics. And if you want your fitness journey to be as successful as the other person who you're sharing your fitness journey with, it's always important to, again, the term support, look out for each other, make sure that you both are able to achieve the success and the results that you want. And of course, in the end, that is pretty much what everyone will want, being able to train and stay physically active and stay at it for the long run as much as you possibly can to, of course, maintain your fitness, your wellness, your health, and all of that good stuff, right? All right, so that is it for me in today's show, guys. Thank you again so much for joining me in today's show. I know the past couple of weeks have been probably the most corniest, but again, of course, we try to do our best here on the show to relate fitness into as many aspects of life and as many parts of our lifestyle as we can. All right. So, again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me in today's show. If you have not yet clicked the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel, please do that today. It does help the channel a lot. And if you feel that today's show is very relevant to you, or it could help somebody you know and love, please do like the video or share it with somebody today. And of course, if you also have any comments, questions, or any suggestions, please leave those in the comments below. You never know, I might turn one of your questions or comments or concerns into a brand new episode for the show. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for joining me in today's show. Coach RKaye here, reminding you always to never give up on your movement journey because it's never too late to move. Bye-bye, guys. See you again.